Hi, I'm Trisha at Club Scrap and welcome to the Mid-Mod Page Kit Workshop. This is going to be so much fun. During our time together, we'll sort the paper, then trim every piece needed to create 8 12 by 12 scrapbook pages together. Once we're done with the workshop, grab your adhesive and get those pages done. Let's get started. So I have my instructions printed. You don't really need to print them. If you just want to follow along with me or perhaps look at the finished pages on a screen when you're done, that's totally cool. Here are all of the things that came in the kit. I'm going to set aside all the ribbon and the little goodies and everything and have those handy. I advise keeping all of that in the bag your workshop kit came in. And then here we have all the prints, planes, and cut-aparts. What we're going to do first is sort the paper into the order that we'll use it. So I like to hold the paper upright like this. It's just like you were in a record shop looking at vinyl records, and it's kind of the easiest way to hunt on the piece we're looking for. Right here I have my Fiskars Guillotine trimmer. I'll put a link to that in the description if you want a nice trimmer to use. And then I'm also using an Accordion Pocket File to stay organized. Same thing, I'll put the link below if you want to use this. Otherwise you're going to have to maintain 4 separate piles, so it just uses more space, but don't let not having this keep you from doing the workshop. And we'll learn more about that later. Okay, so let's go ahead and find the large circles print. Okay, just take one of those and put it face down on your trimmer, and then find the small squares print. Again, that will go face down. So just one of each of those. Next up, we'll find a sheet of the Harvest Gold, and there's a piece of metallic in there. Don't look for that just yet. And then we'll go with the orange. This is a nice burnt orange color, so orange, one sheet of that. You can see that there's a texture on one side and then the other side is more smooth. So I'll put it texture side down. Later on, we're going to flip all these papers back over when we trim them. Okay, next up, let's find 2 sheets of the blue. 2 sheets of blue. 1 piece of that metallic gold. This is metallic gold on both sides. You don't have to worry about that. 1 piece of the green. And now this green has like a linen texture. Just take 1 sheet of that and put the linen side facing down. Now at the back of your stack, you're probably going to find 2 sheets of cut-aparts and they might be facing away from you. Let's take the cut-apart that has the 2 green strips on the edge, put that face down, and then the other remaining cut-apart will be next, face down. Then we'll take the 2 remaining sheets of orange, put those face down. The remaining large circle print, that'll be next, face down. The remaining blue onto the trimmer. The small squares print will be next. The remaining Harvest Gold and the 2 green, your last 2 pieces, face down with the texture. Flip everything back over to where we started with the large circles print, and I'm just going to stack these neatly together. I usually place the papers to trim to my left, and then I take my instructions, put them to my right. I'll take the Accordion Pocket File, set the lip of the folder underneath my trimmer base, and that is going to help me stay organized. So as we cut, I'll assign a pocket to each piece, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, or 7 and 8. Otherwise, just have 4 piles. Let's take this large circles print and let's pop this into the trimmer with the green and taupe-ish piece in the upper right corner. There should be a solid green over here. I don't know that it really matters, but I'm just trying to set you up to do it exactly the way I did it. And then let's go ahead and trim this at 9 inches. So you'll find that hole number 9. Put your left hand on that clear bar. Make sure the paper is flush at the top so it's not a crooked cut, and then make that slice. Then slide the paper all the way down to 5 3/4. So if you're new to the measuring phase, just find the hole number 5, go left 1, 2, 3 columns toward the 6, stabilize again, and slice. Now notice I'm leaving the papers that I've trimmed, I'm leaving them stay where they land. That way I know where they are and you know where they are, rather than moving them aside each time. Now this larger piece, that's in the trimmer base plus the one that just fell. These are like a little larger. What I'm going to have you do, sounds weird, but I'm going to have you put it underneath your pile of untrimmed pieces, just right underneath there. And then the other piece, the first one that landed, let's pop this into pocket 5 and 6. And when you do that, just make sure the paper is sitting in there at an angle so that you can still see the numbers on the left and it just kind of hangs out to the right, since the width of the pocket is also 12 inches. Let's take the small circles print, doesn't really matter how it goes in, and we'll trim this at 11 1/4. Now rotate the piece so it's horizontal. I mean, it's still almost square, but just give it a rotation and trim it at 7. Both of these pieces are used in layouts 7 and 8. So I'm just going to place these both in 7 and 8. Again, just kind of peeking out the side there. You do have a little scrap that I didn't use. I could use it. I just might. I'll set it aside for now. And then let's pick up the next sheet in our stack, which is the Harvest Gold. This is super easy to trim at 6, right in half. And then you can actually pick up both pieces you created. They should be the same size. Stack them neatly together, and we'll cut them at the same time if you feel comfortable. Otherwise, go back and do the second sheet at 8 and 4. And that's going to give you 6 pieces that are the same size. I will take one of them and put it in pocket 1 and 2. Then 2 of them will go in pockets 7 and 8. And the remaining 3 pieces, that should be the same, they're all going to go in pocket 3 and 4. Now, if I'm going too fast, you can always put your playback speed to 0.75. That'll really slow me down until you're more comfortable with the process, especially if you're brand new. Sometimes it just takes a little while to get your wings. Let's trim this, burnt orange color, which I love, at 6 1/4. So again, find the 6 and then go left toward the 7, 1 column. That's 6 1/4. Rotate the piece in your trimmer. Of course, let the other one just lay where it landed. We'll cut this one at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. And always remember to push down on the clear bar. You created 2 pieces the same. They're both going to go in pocket 1 and 2. And there is a smaller piece that fell. Let's trim this one at 6 and 3. And you've created 2 rectangles that are the same size. Those are going to go in pocket 1 and 2. This little tiny piece, I didn't use it. So set that one aside and grab the remaining sheet of the orange. We'll trim this one at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. And gather up those 3 pieces that you created, put them in pocket 1 and 2. And once again, there is a small scrap to set aside. Moving on to page 2 of our instructions, I will take just 1 sheet of the blue. So I want you to see one here and see one there, 1 sheet at a time. This one we're going to cut almost the same way. Well, it's pretty much exactly the same way as the last piece. So 6 1/4, rotate, cut at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. You've got 2 pieces the same, the one that's in your trimmer, the one that just fell. Those are the same, going into pocket 3 and 4. And then we'll take this other rectangle and trim at 6 and 3. 2 pieces the same, going into pockets 7 and 8. And you have a tiny little scrap. And take the remaining piece, we'll trim it at 11 1/4. 7 1/2, 3 3/4. That leaves you with 3 pieces the same size for pocket 3 and 4, and a small scrap to set aside. With the other sheet of blue, we're going to be trimming a ton of narrow strips, and I will find a home for each one of them. Let's start at 11 3/4, and then stabilize. And just let that strip land, then slide to 11 1/2, 11 1/4, 11, 10 3/4, 10 1/2, then scoot down to 9 1/4. Oh, I know it's a long way. 9 1/4, and then finally 6. Now rotate the piece in the trimmer and cut at 8 and 4. All 3 of these rectangles should be the same size going into pocket 5 and 6. Then take this next strip. We have a lot of cuts to make on this, so just follow along carefully. We'll cut at 11 1/4, 10, 7 3/4, 5 1/2, and 3 1/4. This larger piece, pocket 3 and 4, along with just one of the other smaller rectangles that just fell. So both of these go in pocket 3 and 4. And then you have another rectangle for pocket 5 and 6, another for 7 and 8. And that leaves you with 2 remaining really smaller pieces, okay? So the larger of the 2 remaining, pocket 3 and 4, and then you have this little guy that fell from the end, he's a scrap. The wider remaining strip, 3 and 4, again, pop it in at an angle. And then you have all of these little tiny blue strips. So many of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Pocket 7 and 8. And then there are 2 that go in pocket 1 and 2. We're moving on to the metallic gold. Let's start this one at 10 1/4. And 6 1/4. Rotate this 6 1/4 by 12. Let's trim this at 8 3/4, 8 1/2, and 4 1/4. All right, the piece in the trimmer and the one that just fell, they both go in pockets 7 and 8. That does leave a really narrow strip that we're not going to be using. And then we have this other rectangle. Let's trim this one at 5 1/2 and 2 3/4. And both of these pieces, pocket 1 and 2, plus there's a little rectangle, that's a scrap. Wow, our scrap pile is really getting big here. Let's take the next strip. This is 4 by 12. We're going to cut it in half at 6. And the 2 pieces that you just created, pocket 5 and 6. Then you have this long, narrow strip, and we're going to cut a series of squares and grate a little scrap. So our first cut is at 10 1/2, then 8 3/4, 7, 5 1/4, 3 1/2, 1 3/4. Okay, so let's just dig up all of the squares, and then on the bottom of the pile there should be this little rectangle. He's the scrap, and all the squares are used in layout 5 and 6. Take the sheet of green. We're getting to the end here. We'll trim this one at 11 3/4. Once again, that creates that tiny strip. Then 11 1/2, another tiny strip. 11 1/4 for our last really tiny strip. And then 9 3/4. Oh, they're getting bigger. 9 3/4. Then 8 1/4. And 6 1/4. Rotate and trim at 10, 8 1/2, and 4 1/4. So the 2 pieces, the one in your trimmer, the one that just fell, same size, both go in 5 and 6. And then you have this narrow strip. Now there are 2 strips remaining. The narrowest one, that goes in 1 and 2. And then the one that's 2 by 6 1/4 right now, let's trim that one at 6, 4, and 2. That creates a series of 3 2 by 2 inch squares for pocket 3 and 4, and a teeny tiny little scrap. Then our next strip in the pile that fell, this one's 2 by 12. Let's cut this at all the even numbers to make some more squares. So we'll go 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2. 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Let's take all of our squares and place them in pocket 5 and 6. And then you have these 2 strips that are the same size that are wide. Those are both going to go in 5 and 6. And then you've got a series of 3 narrow strips for pocket 3 and 4. Now we're landing on our cut-aparts here. So you'll notice that on the corner of each cut-apart, there's a little crosshairs, little hash marks. And then there's also text that says, remove paper outside of corner cutting guides. So I'm just going to place this piece in my trimmer. And right now the size of the paper outsizes the length of my blade. So when I make this first cut, I'm not even going to try to get to the crosshairs. I'm going to go a little outside the crosshairs just so I can shorten the paper length a little bit, and then I'll rotate. I have to do this on every edge. So now I can see down here in the lower right corner, and I can see up here the edge of the silver blade. Once I get it lined up, I'll slice and then rotate again and line it up here, rotate, and at this point I should be able to look over at the 12 and see a match here. I'm going to see that little hash mark right where it needs to be. Rotating again to clean up that last slice. So that'll leave me with a pile of really skinny little guys. I'm going to throw those away and make sure that when I start trimming this piece that the green strips are on the right. And let's start here at 10 3/4, 9 1/2, 7 1/2, and 4. Rotate that 4-inch piece and we'll trim at 6. That gives me this large piece for pocket 1 and 2. All of these little circles, those are going to go in, they're going to be used in layouts 5 and 6. You can decide if you want to take a punch or a thin circle die or scissors and trim these into individual circles. I'm going to hold on that for now and just pop all that into pocket 5 and 6. These are the good old days, pocket 7 and 8 on that strip. And the same for this other floral border, that's 7 and 8. The 2 green strips, pocket 5 and 6. And here we go with the remaining sheet of cut-aparts, and we have to do the same exact thing. So let's clean up those edges. I'll cut shy of that line here, give it a rotation. Now I can see the hash marks and line them up. And it may not, I might have to level the paper a little bit too. So just prioritize the lines as best as you can. And if you need more time to work on this, just pause the video and come back when you have all those edges cleaned up and looking good. And then I'll get rid of my little pieces. When we start our trimming, let's have the paper positioned with the journaling prompt tags on the left. And then we'll cut this at 10 3/4, 9 3/4, 8, 6, and 3. Then I'll take the piece in the trimmer and rotate it so that that little piece of artwork is on the right. We'll cut at 11, then slide it down to 9, 7, 5, and 3. This piece goes in pocket 3 and 4. And then we have a journaling prompt, kind of that orangey tone that goes in 7 and 8. The journaling prompt with the blue tag reinforcer, that's 3 and 4. The one with the brown background and the green tag reinforcer, that's 5 and 6. Now here, you can fussy cut these, but for now, let's just go ahead and trim them. I think they go, let's see, it's going to be 2 1/4. 1 1/2. This is kind of smaller numbers, but very, very doable on this trimmer because you have that clear bar. So this last cut's at 3/4, but I can still manage it. Okay, now the timeless goes in 1 and 2. The ageless, 7 and 8. classic 3 and 4, and vintage 1 and 2. There's also this little guy. I put him in pocket 3 and 4. This really wide strip, also 3 and 4. And then you have these two kind of matching pieces, 1 and 2. This cute little daisy chain here, 3 and 4. And then we have one more strip that needs some love here. So make sure the green box is on the left, and we'll cut at 10, 8, and 6. This green piece, 1 and 2. Then you've got good times, both of those, 7 and 8. And you have your little miscellaneous item, 1 and 2. Okay, that is it for all the trimming. Amazing. I know it's a lot of trimming, and especially if you're new to this method, you're thinking, all I've done for the last 20 minutes is trim. But if you think about it in the scheme of things, to make 8 layouts, trimming for this little while and having everything done for all of those 8 pages is pretty amazing. So go ahead and lock your trimmer blade if you haven't already. And then always just make sure that when you if you're using the Accordion Pocket File, that you support it after you take the trimmer away, because the trimmer is what's holding it up. And if this were sitting on the edge of your table and you take your trimmer away, it goes on the floor,
we'll all be really sad.
So from now on, I'm going to keep this on its back and get rid of my trimmer. Well, this is what I've got left. All these 12 by 12 pieces of paper and my pockets. So I set those pockets aside. And remember, we did stash some papers underneath our pile. That's okay. I'm going to stack everything up neatly and take the entire pile and put that toward the left of my work area, and then slide the top sheet over to the right. Those are my little scraps, get rid of those. So what I have then in front of me is 2 sheets of the orange, okay? So in my instructions, I'll turn to page 4 down at the bottom where it says layouts 7 and 8. And I can see right away that the papers used here are the orange. It says 12 by 12 orange, left base and right base. Yay. And then I'll empty pocket 7 and 8. So it can be tempting to empty pocket 1 and 2 because we're starting at the beginning, but we're just going to go work our way backwards. All right, we're going to go from layout 7 and 8 and end with 1 and 2, so that when we get to 1 and 2, you can just take your adhesive then and go right back to layout 7 and 8 by gluing everything down. Now here I have these larger prints from the pocket, and I want to show you that I used a 3-in-1 corner punch here. This has 3 different radii, and it's R4 is the smallest, then R7, then R10. So if I put this on the R7, for example, I can round those corners, creates a nice look on this paper. And then I'm just going to place it kind of with an equal margin, top, right, and bottom. And then you can do the same radius on the other print. I'm just showing you. I rounded quite a few corners in this. I think that kind of is a mid-century modern look. And then that's going to go in the upper section here. So that's kind of cool. Next, I'll take this narrow daisy border, and then it's going to get a blue on either side of it. So it almost looks like I matted the daisy strip with 1 piece of blue, but I saved all the paper that would have been behind it by just going with these paper ribbons here. And then below that, I'm taking 2 smaller blue rectangles that are the same. And then to the left of that, good times. I rounded the corners of the good times. I rounded those on the R4. That's just the smaller radius, the smallest, I should say, and that's in the front and center. This is a really nice little punch. I'll put a link to it in the video description. I used one of those little woodcut ribbon holder thingies, and then I fussy cut the word ageless to go right there. I'm going to show you in a minute how I did all of that. Then on the upper portion of this page, we have 2 Harvest Gold mats. And there's a journaling prompt here that matches up with a blue mat. You can clip the corners of the journaling tag and then nest it, clip the corners of the blue mat, and then punch a hole through it if you like. I also added one of the orange, or gold rather, sunburst charms and some of this ribbon to the top of the tag. Now on the left side, I've added this large border strip and flanked it again with the blue paper ribbons. Those will be glued on. And typically what I do is I place the large piece first and I run the nozzle of a needle tip applicator, I'll put a link below, filled with bookbinding glue. I run the nozzle of it along the edge of that piece and then I can just plop this on top rather than try to add adhesive to the strip itself. 2 gold mats right there. I'm just going to quick show you something that I did with the blue ribbon here. So I took the ribbon and I'm going to cut it into a swallow's tail by folding it in half. And then I'll do that again on the other end, just cutting off a narrow strip here. Okay. And then I'm going to fold it in half with unequal lengths in the end. But before I fold it, I'm going to thread the ribbon through my cute little deal. And I'm going to take a stapler. And the staples aren't going to be visible, so don't worry about what kind of stapler, just something that's going to happily go through ribbon. And I'm just going to secure it to this piece. You can also take some of the jute and run it through the hole at the top of this, and that's going to be placed here. So I recommend maybe some of your favorite adhesive to hold the ribbon, and then maybe some of the glue to hold the wood. And then after you fussy cut your little label here, this little shape is adorable, and you know it's easily cut with scissors, so just go ahead and fussy cut that. I won't do this with all of these in this workshop video, but I want you to really know exactly how I created these little embellishments. And then I added that right over the staple, and it just gives it a really nice finished look. So I'm going to go to my actual finished page and just go over the remaining details with you. So here you can see what we did together. I didn't add the jute to the top here. I'm not sure if I had any left. And then I used a bookbinding glue to add the sweet sunburst charm here. And then after I punched the hole in the top of the tag, just you can use any kind of hole punch, thread it with ribbon and bring the tails around to the back. On the facing page, I don't think there was anything really extraordinary that happened here. Oh, but yes, I did add, so sweet, these fabric flowers to, those are in your kit as embellishments. I added them to the top of 3 of these flowers on the left side of the layout there. Very cute, I mean, and super simple. The rounded corners look so nice. I think you're gonna like that set of pages. So at this point, I'm going to take the gold, or the orange paper rather, pick it up and slide it over so it sits on top. 7 is sitting on top of 8. And then I'm going to pick up this print and slide it over. And now I have the base for pages 5 and 6. So once again, in my instructions, I'm going to look at the top of page 4 to see the finished layout after everything's been added. So I'll empty the pocket labeled 5 and 6. And in here we do have a strip of the print, and then flank that with a wide green strip and add the title, Collect Things You Love That Are Authentic to You. And there should be 2 larger green mats and then 2 slightly smaller metallic gold mats. Those are going to sit kind of angled like this on your page. And then you can take 3 green squares, 1, 2, 3, add 3 gold squares, and then 3 of the smaller daisies on top of those squares. I'll show you in a minute. Now on the other side, take 2 of the blue mats, and then the green solid with the green strip. And then this other mat will go on the lower right. There's a mat for your journaling prompt. And in your goodies, there will be a series of 3 craft tags. 1 will go here, and 2 will go here. Each one will get a green square. I rounded the corners. And then 3 gold squares. And you pretty much have all your pieces placed in their general location after you do a little bit of fussy cutting. So I will review the finished work here. And it's neat because when everyone at the warehouse was checking out the finished page, they thought these were painted wood discs. So here's what I did. I rounded the corners of the gold square and the green square and nested them onto the craft tag. I then punched a new hole in the top and just made a small loop of the gold, or that orangey double-faced satin, and wrapped it around, secured it at the back. After these were popped out, I had a punch that popped them out. I added them to the layout, just kind of offset a little bit with foam adhesive. Worked really well. And then I used a lot more ribbon here. I punched a hole to the right and to the left of the title. And then I threaded the ribbon just past the hole and taped it right there, and then ran it around to the back. And then I threaded the ribbon just to there, taped it on the underside, and wrapped it around to the back. So I didn't use this middle section. There's no ribbon behind here. On this piece, I think I just had a tiny, tiny amount of the jute left, and I threaded it onto the top of the tag after I punched the hole and clipped the corners. So that's the page 6. And then page 5, I just repeated that. So the ribbon, tape, punch, tape, ribbon goes around. The 3 daisies are added with foam adhesive, and then this corner, or this square tag, and then round embellishment is added the same exact way as on the previous pages. So it's up to you if you want to go to all that fuss. You don't have to. Remember, it's your own page. I'll pick up that navy or that blue base and slide it over, and then the small squares will slide over. I need to reverse my way back in the instructions to the bottom of page 3. And then I'm going to empty the pocket labeled 3 and 4. And let's get busy. There are 3 blue mats you're going to find. 1, 2, 3. Those are the smaller ones, because there are larger ones too. Those are going to end up horizontally right over here. I like to mix up the horizontal and vertical to add balance to your page. I know maybe some of you feel like every picture I have is vertical. It used to be every picture we had was horizontal because of the cameras, and now it's the cell phones. But I adapt my photos so that they fit, because it's really hard to put all vertical or all horizontal photos on a page. Okay, so above and below this border strip, we're going to sneak in a nice little fake mat to add contrast, okay? And then on the top of the blue, larger blue mats, we're going to add the Harvest Gold. Then look for a blue strip that nests with the cute little daisy border. And then I'm just going to add 1 shade of green here to carry that over. Our Harvest Gold mat will be vertical. You'll again find a blue mat for your journaling prompt for here, and a blue mat for this little floral piece for up here. So that's the same width, these 2 pieces, and then this. So you can even have that all lining up there if you like. After you fussy cut this, the word classic goes here along with one of those cute felt flowers, or fabric flowers rather. There should be a square, and I rounded the corners of this piece and the square behind it, and that's going to fit right here. I accented that with one of those little starburst charms. I would like to make some earrings with those as well. And then we have our row of 3 green squares, top them with some ribbon. Let's take a look. So here we have a bunch of the jute was used up in like a quadruple loop, a lark's head knot there with a tide at the end, and I glued this knot in place. Here, just used bookbinding glue to add the fabric flower. Very simple and straightforward. On this half of the layout, I used our bookbinding glue to add the charm, and then the little loops here, I just cut 3 pieces of ribbon pretty short, folded them in half, and then taped the ribbon to the back of the element. That's it. Very simple. For our final 2 pages, I'll pick up this Harvest Gold, slide it over, and then 1 more piece, slide it over, and I should be able to see the green. And from beneath this green, I'll pick up the 2 pieces that we had set aside. And then one of them is going to go along the right edge here. The other will be placed right here, or approximately. Let's empty the final pieces out of the organizer here, and we can set that aside. And let's see, a good place to start is probably with those 3 gold mats, and they should fit in the remaining green space perfectly. Oh, I see that I did add the, let's see, the narrower of the 2 strips does fit behind here, kind of in the crack there between those 2 mats. We have a harvest gold here again, and then I rounded the corners of this green panel to fit with this, and that does sort of overlap into these 2 photos, and it's anchored by this border strip. I used one of those little pieces here along with the word vintage and the ribbon trick plus one of the fabric flowers. And I even rounded the corners of this. I think that's what the fabric flower sits on, right here in that lower right corner. Now on the left, I'm going to flank this strip with some blue, just to kind of tie it all in. Above here, and this is what's going to determine where this strip goes. Let's start with our orange pieces, and that's going to frame kind of below. And then this is going to just tuck kind of here. So when I glued down these pieces, I started with this, then I went to this piece plus the 2 blue, and then I added this, and then I added this. So for what it's worth. This can nest. Now I just want to point out that if you have a lot of pictures, don't be afraid to just cover up any of the cut-aparts, okay? Those cut-aparts are just there to help you if you don't have a lot of pictures. And then these 2 pieces get nested and placed here. I once again did a repeat of that cute little ribbon embellishment with the timeless. And here we go. Let's review finishing touches. Rounded corners here, anchored with the strip. I added the jute topper in a bow and then stapled on the ribbon that I cut just like I showed you, with the vintage covering the staples. This anchors the fabric flower. Bookbinding glue is great for attaching all that stuff. And on the facing page, one more repeat of the embellishment trick. I liked it, so I just kept using it. Yeah, that's like the only extra that I had to perform on either of these. Otherwise, it's just a straight stick them down. Your final step now is to adhere all the pieces in place. And if you're afraid to do that, thinking, the photos that I have in mind, I'm not sure that's gonna work. I might have more horizontals or I might have more verticals. If you've never done this method before, allow me to just encourage you to actually finish these pages, stick everything down. Then bring your photos to the pages and adapt where necessary. Like you could put 2 vertical photos that you trim a little smaller to fit on 1 horizontal mat, for example. I often do that to adapt to my pages. But if you choose to do it that way, where you adapt, you'll be amazed at how much more efficient you can be in your scrapbooking. Another cool part is if you finish up these pages and have everything stuck down, the next time you go to a crop, bring your prepared pages and your photos and just have a blast finishing them with your pictures. Or maybe you take the pages as they are right now without anything stuck down, slide them carefully back into the bag your kit came in, throw in your ribbon and fiber to be used later along with your instructions, and when you're with your friends, then stick everything down. You don't have to think so hard, right? You don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to bring 3 wagon loads from the car to your crop event, so you can just enjoy the time with your friends and be extremely productive. I hope that makes sense. I hope you had fun. And before you go, I just want to mention that if you're not a member of Club Scrap, anyone can shop at Club Scrap, but if you are a member, you definitely save. You'll save $8 on kits.
Wow.
And again, before you go, make sure you're subscribed to our channel so that you don't miss any of our fun kit reveals or spoilers, impromptu workshops, or card and page workshops and projects too. And if you've gotten any benefit out of this workshop, I love to hear from my viewers. So take a second, leave me a comment, just even say hi and let me know you're here and watching. I really appreciate it. It totally makes my day. I look forward to seeing you again in another Club Scrap workshop. Thank you so much for joining me.